Guangzhou Charge! Do you remember when you're on the school bus and then there was always that kid with too much energy in the morning?
Yeah.
And he's jumping around and he's screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. And then by the end of the day, he's all tuckered out and he's asleep on the floor in your math class.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's going to be a Spotify listener that's going to freak the fuck out in their car. When they hear these.
Sorry, Spotify.
They've got our podcast on autoplay. They've just been listening to Tactical Crouch, and Avril's like, have a lovely day, everybody. And then, just actual chimp noises play in the background. All right, anyway, welcome to the Guangzhou Charge team preview. If you're a Guangzhou Charge fan, God, it's been a difficult year, hasn't it? And we're here to tell you, it's not getting too much better.
Yo,
Is that an Elden Ring reference or something?
What, sorry?
Was that an Elden Ring reference or something? Why was it so funny?
No, I was just saying it was. I was just saying it's been a rough year to be a Guangzhou Charge
like a grizzled vet.
No, I'm literally, Jonathan, there was no real hidden message there. It's just been a shitty year to support the Guangzhou Charge because they look like an all right team. They've got some decent talent, but my God, did they just get made into a two-dimensional lasagna fucking... They got
two-dimensional lasagna.
Yeah, two-dimensional.
That's incredibly flat.
Flatter than normal lasagna.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad year, 2021, especially coming off 2020, where they won a stage. They won the Summer Showdown. I think everyone forgets that. Eileen was going crazy. It was nasty good. And then 2021, they just looked really poo. So I thought they were going to make some major changes heading into 2022, and they really haven't done much at all, but they've changed around some stuff a bit. So I think let's start with the support line, because that's where they've made the most changes, right? It was Kariv and Mandu last year, I think, right?
Yes.
And I can't say I was really hot on Kariv and Mandu coming into the beginning of the season.
Mate, they were poo.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
But I'm trying to think, like, beginning of 2021, I was like, I don't really like this move. Like, Kariv's a long-time player,
I had
but...
hopes for Kariv, honestly. I had hopes for Kariv going into 2021. Like, I thought, like, but I didn't think he was going to play Shu, by any means. Like, there was no replacing Shu in the lineup. But it definitely did not... I think my Kariv hope is now officially... It's done. Well,
that's fine, because they're not playing with Kariv anymore.
They're playing he's not there. Yeah,
Unique
it's done
and Molly. So let's start with Molly. Let's start with Molly, because I feel like we have seen more of Molly, but Molly's also been a player that didn't actually get as much playtime as we wanted him to get.
I have a point, please, to make. I really like Molly as a player. I think Molly's pretty sick. Honestly, what's got you giggling? What's so funny?
Just clip those sentences.
What's so funny?
I really like Molly. Big fan of Molly.
I love Molly. Molly's the best.
What's
Especially
so
when I'm
funny?
at a club.
I don't understand why you're laughing. Anyway,
Bren's big in the rave scene.
I think Molly was an amazing flex support player in the moments that we saw them play. And yeah, I just think that they're a fantastic player. How are they going to be working in the system of kind of, again...
Wow, look how much Molly's won.
Well,
yeah.
The times we saw Molly play,
which was how much?
A lot.
Jonathan, you are the one that normally pulls up the played stats, right? Like how much they actually played.
I have this written down right in front of me.
How much?
I did my research. In 2021, Molly played 15 hours on Chengdu. He played 8 hours Senyara and 6 hours of Ana. And I didn't even bother running it down, but I think for Shanghai, he played like an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
I went to look that. That was obviously when they were... He played one map. Was it him that played one map? No, that was Develop. Sorry, I'm confusing him and Develop.
Map.
Sorry, I played one. I'm confusing him and Develop. I think he played like an hour and a half or something this past season. But it's also like you're the Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah, you're not going to get playtime in Shanghai. You're not.
Yeah.
But the Chengdu playtime, my timelines have skewed in my head.
No, that was 2020.
It was 2020,
when he played
right?
for Chengdu. It wasn't beginning 2021.
That's largely what I'm basing this off of.
2020. Yes, 2020.
Yes.
Yeah,
2020.
I'm a fan of Molly from that era, from that year. He wasn't going to get playtime.
It's just still funny.
I'm talking about the player. I'm talking about the player.
Yeah.
Concentrate, children.
We know.
Sorry.
We know.
God's sake, so immature.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Molly from that era.
He can't stop himself.
Holy fuck! Are you guys like 20 years old? Come on.
because
Sorry.
but obviously they're not going to get playtime on the Shanghai Dragons in 2021. Like that's just a fact. But we know that they have really capable as a flexible player. I have high hopes in that regard as well. I mean, that Guangzhou Charge also just don't have the option of not playing Molly because they don't have other options. They've only got the 2 players in their support line. So it's not going to be like a similar situation.
It does kind of just feel, though, like the Guangzhou Charge bought the Shanghai bench a little bit here, doesn't it? With Molly going over.
Develop.
Molly and develop. Is it a bad thing? No, but also we actually didn't see how good they were last year at all. They played a tiny amount. What I'm grasping for here is I want something to be excited about. And even for Molly, who in 2020 I was excited about, the lack of data in 2021 just makes that a bit damp compared to where I'd like to be.
Even in 2020, like I went back and looked at some of those matches in 2020, and Chengdu, they were obviously struggling that year. We mentioned that in the Chengdu episode as well. It wasn't a great year for them. But I looked at some of the comps they were playing. They were playing like a lot of dive with Mercy Sen. And essentially, like they just left Molly alone, being like the Harmony Orb and the Discord Orb bot, essentially. And he didn't really get any resources whatsoever. And so obviously his stats are going to take a bit of a hit. I think I looked up the stats, and he essentially had like some damage, but when you looked at like final blows, eliminations, like he was very low on those. And also, I don't think he died that much either, which essentially tells you the story combined with the VODs I watched that like he just sat back and he wasn't really part in, dealing damage to the tanks, being put resources into. And so with that, I find it very hard to judge Molly like moving into Overwatch 2. Like, can we actually expect like carry performances from him? Can we expect Guangzhou to reliably put resources into him and make him like a solid part of this backline? And Avast touches this in a former episode as well. Like, flex support is incredibly important going into Overwatch 2. So is Molly going to be your guy? Like, I have my questions about that. I'm a bit dubious.
Yeah, I think he's also potentially set up to fail if there is any kind of double flex support meta, because
his team has gaps there.
The team has big gaps there, and I really don't know if the Charge have demonstrated any ability to build a cohesive system outside of, one flash where Eileen went crazy in 2020. So I'm not inspired looking at this team, mostly because of their very poor performances in 2021. And 2 of the pieces that I felt pretty decent about are Rio and Krong, and they can't play together. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Do you want to touch on Unique as well? I don't really
Absolutely,
think we addressed Unique. Yeah. So I also went back and watched some of his matches. Overall, like a pretty risk-averse main support, like, solid, consistent. But it's nothing to like be super excited about. Like, I watched him play and he had decent peel abilities, like booped away Sombras, booped away Tracers, protected his flex support. I saw him play against some Sombras, for example, but he just sit back, save his sound barrier and not make like a proactive play. Like, I think there were some moments where I could have perhaps liked to see Unique push forward a bit more, be a bit more aggressive and actually try to be proactive with his sound barrier. But he was just like very risk averse. Didn't really do anything special, just a consistent main support. So you combine that with Molly, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, when you combine stuff with Molly, it's could be crazy. But I do think
just beating the horse.
I'm not beating. I'm just
when I was saying all this shit, I didn't even tend to get on this path.
I know.
It's your minds that are corrupted.
I know they are.
I'm just observing the reactions. I think overall, though, that this roster is the definition of like a store of like a Target bought Parmesan cheese. It's like it's gonna get the job done, but it's not gonna be that good.
I can get behind this.
Like, it's like I look at this and I'm like, like I could keep this in the freezer for a couple months and it probably won't affect quality badly. Like, I don't know. I don't love any part of this roster. I think Unique is very solid. I think Develop is like their happy replacement, and like we don't know really what it's going to look like at the Overwatch League level. I mean, you can sort of say the same for Molly, but he's actually had some good moments in the Overwatch League, so probably him and like Krong, or like looking potentially if Eileen and Chosiwon continue to do well. Like, I mean, I don't know. They just have all these parts that are like okay, but nothing that's definitive at any point. Yeah. And also, they don't have a flex support player. Another one.
I don't know. There's one part of the roster I really like, which is the tank line. I agree with all of you. The support line is like there's gaps in this play. A wrong meta comes out, and this team's fucked. they're just fucked, man. Like, if a double flex support meta comes out, like, is Unique going to be flexing over to it? They're going to get one of the... They're gonna, some teams end up putting, like, their DPS players on flex support sometimes. Like, you don't want that scenario to happen. But the tank line, I think, will be able to cover almost every single role, I imagine, in terms of what they might want to play.
I worry about Rio playing solo tank.
Yeah.
Because Rio is dependable, but not...
Here's my whole take.
He just never did any... I kind of liked him in the 2020 season because he was well-rounded and he did his job, and that was all that was required of him. Mm-hmm. And then the more I watched out 2021, I was like, this guy's not getting any better. This guy's not making any waves. This guy's just your most vanilla,
here's my
unbranded, boom, main tank player.
Kron coming in, rookie player. He's going to get max play time. Full time.
He's not a fucking rookie.
I think Krong's probably going to take the majority of the play time on this team.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think
I
that's
could definitely see that.
I mean, it depends on what his main tank's going to be looking like. So
I think we're getting too in the weeds in terms of roles of tanks, and we should be looking more about what players are young enough and proven to be able to adapt to changes in the game, which I think Krong's been able to do. That's the key trait I want to be looking at for tanks with Overwatch 2, because
Krong is absolutely more mechanically gifted than Rio and has a...
I ain't even talking the mechanics though. I'm thinking, how the hell is you've been playing for years and years and years, knowing that there is a second tank alongside you that's supporting you, and that affects the way you play and the flow of the game and team fights. There's going to be a big adjustment if there's not one already in like the workshop mode scrims that teams need to be ready for, and some teams are just going to trip and fall on their faces. Like some tank players are going to just trip and fall. You're going to watch them get fielded, I think, week one. The hype's going to be around it, and then suddenly we're going to be like, what are we watching?
It's like 2018 again. You're going to see
I think it's going to feel like that.
You're going to see mirrors. People who are hyped up, and then they just, they can't adapt.
Yeah, I think it's going to feel like that. So I'm focused on players that can adapt or have shown that they can adapt to meta changes, shifts, and like that. And I think Krong...
Did Krong do that really this past season? I don't know. I feel like he wasn't he definitely wasn't the old Krong of like, oh, I'm hitting the craziest rocks of all time. Like, I definitely think he still is mechanically gifted, but like, I don't know. I don't know if he's like, I'm pretty uninspired by like every portion of this currently. Like, I do think I don't know. I'm just on Charge right now.
I've got the nostalgia goggles on.
Well, Krong was good. I thought Krong was fantastic in contenders on Diva, looked really mechanically gifted, and then when he moved over to Sigma in the 2020 season, I thought that was really good too. But I wouldn't really say that. I don't know. I haven't seen that like adapting his playstyle completely, or it's not like he brought out like a world-class Zarya and Hog and like has a really deep hero pool at the off-tank level, at least from what.
But also, how much of that was even his fault? Because I feel like Rio this year comparatively like wasn't even like he definitely down. It felt like their whole team had an issue where they just weren't coordinated to the same level. They weren't getting the same their level like of synergy that they had in the past. So like, how much of that is on Krong? How much of that is on Rio? So it's maybe Krong still has the mechanics there. He showed it in 2020 and in contenders to pop off.
I agree with all of you, but if there's one excuse you can give this team last year, I think it was going into the season. I was actually quite bullish on Guangzhou because Arachne was the head coach for this team, and I was actually looking forward to that. He was very hyped, because of his former performances. He was part of the shock, etc. And he left very early on in this season. I think after just like a few weeks. And I think that like messed with this team quite a bit. Like in the middle of the season, your head coach leaves, and then you have to adapt after that. He left in May, the 6th of May, and the season had already begun at that point. Now, I can't recall why he left, but this just felt like a dysfunctional organization following that, and they already didn't have a lot of great talent going for them. But with that excuse away. I think this tank line is really bad. I really do. I think
really bad.
Yeah, I think it's really bad. I think Rio is not going to be at all a main tank you can rely on and get good performances out of. I think that Krong had a disappointing 2021, and again, maybe it's not entirely his fault. Maybe it's one of those things like his team was so bad that he couldn't really flourish and play his best performances. Like his stats were actually kind of league average, and all things considering how bad Guangzhou were, like you gotta give him some credit for actually continuing to contribute to this team. But like you look at some of these other teams in APAC as well, and I'm just like, dude, you guys are gonna get run over. It's tough, man. Like even Philadelphia Fusion, Seoul Dynasty, like Hangzhou are going to be better than this past year. Like these are good teams. I think Guangzhou, like the tank line is just not good enough. They're not injecting any new exciting things into this roster. I have a very hard time to be excited about this roster at all. Like,
would you? I mean, we actually don't know the full roster for like the Fusion, for example. But would you have them at the bottom of APAC? That sounds like the way that you're talking. You would have them below.
That will be my hot take. I think Guangzhou Charge are going to end last in APAC this upcoming season.
Yeah, you know what?
Valiant of Philadelphia.
I mean, I actually don't mind the Valiant roster. We'll get onto them in a future week, but I think there's more potential there. Honestly, I don't hate that hot take.
You want to talk about the one good thing, Josh? The DPS line.
We haven't even spoken about the DPS.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the DPS line?
Let's talk about the DPS line, though, because in 2020, I was really impressed by Eileen. I felt like it was a bit of a breakthrough year. Previously, Eileen had been benched in like the 2019 seasons and only come out to play Doom or Widow or something. It wasn't really like silly hero specialist, but it was very, very niche. And then in the 2020 season, I think it was because Nero had visa issues or something, Eileen ended up stepping up, playing the Genji, playing the Tracer, playing a whole range of different stuff, and looked very good for them that year. And then as more talents entered the league and as Eileen's played longer, that same level of explosiveness just doesn't appear to be there. And you're pairing them up with Choice One, Develop, who we haven't really seen much of at all. I think, Jonathan, he played a single map for the Shanghai Dragons, no?
Yeah.
Literally one map with Who Are You or something. And that was it.
He was pretty good, that one map. He was pretty good, to be honest. But
it's one map.
Yeah,
they lost to Philadelphia Fusion.
Also, his contenders performance, which was recent, like wasn't like bad either. Like when you look at his performance with Talon and OZ Gaming and such, like he was on like OZ Gaming was like this team that was like awful in contenders, but it had a lot of decent talents on it. It's like where Skewed came from, etc.
Yeah, but we're not talking about like a Preeta, right? Where he's back to back MVP, best player from China. Like Develops just maybe he's got some talent.
I looked at some of his matches, specifically when he played for Talon. His Sombra is not good, but you want this guy on like long range hit scan or Tracer, which is actually kind of a nice thing to have another Tracer player in this team, because we'll talk about Choice One as well. But Choice One was a capable Tracer, and now you have Develop, who's also a capable Tracer.
Nice,
but you want this guy
triple Tracer meta.
Triple Tracer. No, because that is like, I think having two capable Tracers is like really good on a team, because that means that you can have like long range hit scan and you can play like Tracer long range hit scan like Florida Mayhem did in was it 2020 yeah they played like Yaki on Tracer and BKB on long range hit scan, but they can also flex over and have Develop play the Tracer and allow Choice One to play others, the projectile heroes like Pharah, Genji, and you won't really miss out that much in the downgrading performance on the Tracer role. And if Tracer is going to be as consistent and important in Overwatch 2 as in Overwatch 1, I actually think that's a big thing for this team, like a big boon for them. But again, like Develop, I don't think he's like a super interesting player. I watched some of the VODs and he's just like, his Sombra is not good. You can't rely on that at all. So you probably want Eileen to play that. His long range hit scan is like, okay, my Twitch chat, they were kind of roaring when I said this, but he sort of reminded me to be like the Korean Logix. And then like he can play like some long range hit scan. He's a bit more consistent than Logix, but like he's not going to be the next big thing. And if Guangzhou wants to be the next big thing, Develop will have to be that player, in my opinion, who just like starts wowing in the APAC region. But so far, I haven't seen anything that just like takes me away.
Some hopium.
Oh, God, please. The Guangzhou Charge fans, all three of them that are watching, are begging you for some hopium.
I'm going to tap into my Mentat analysis.
Okay.
I'm taking in the data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is my projection.
Okay.
Okay. Overwatch 2, big meta shift incoming. Not many things going on. The spice is in my system, coursing my veins. I can feel it. Prescience.
And?
Okay, is there more to it? Or
there
is that,
more.
I mean, what's going on?
Okay, so Overwatch 2. We know that Sombra's very OP.
Yep.
Eileen plays Sombra.
Yep.
Develop comes out. Dungslinger, new hero.
Okay.
Hit scan projectile fusion.
Sorry. Dungslinger is hit scan. You're throwing poo at people at a hit scan level.
Projectile. Yeah, and projectile. It fires compressed gas as the hit scan element of it.
Okay.
And alternates into projectile, lobbing projectile dots.
Okay.
That and it can stick to walls and it does damage over time.
Right. Okay.
I've got access to Overwatch 2, remember? I know this. Anyway, enough of the funny business. I do think there's a world. If I'm to drag any serious point out of what the fuck we just went down into, it is that there is a lot of uncertainty coming into next year. Yeah. We're going into more DPS-focused elements with the game. It's moving into that direction. I actually do have faith in the tank line, or at least in Krong as an individual, because I've got my rose-tinted goggles on, and Molly as a player. I think Molly's sick from 2020. Again, 2 years ago. And there's a world in which I can see that this team, I don't see them being the bottom, but I see there being 2 tiers in APAC, and they are going to be, again, taking maps against the other teams at the bottom tier of APAC. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be
the region is going to be
worst.
split into 2, and I can see them taking maps against, I don't know, I guess Valiant. Who else would be in the bottom tier with them? Maybe it depends where you're at. Well, we'll get on the rosters anyway.
Yeah, I mean, no one will give a shit about those matches between the Guangzhou.
Yeah, but the point being
I'm
is
just
like
planting my flag so that when those matches come around, the little Twitch YouTube viewer Andy's, they'll be like, "Oh, Johnny, what's wrong about the Guangzhou Charge? Look at them go against the Valiant." I'm planting my flag because those matches need to be exciting, and I'm trying to make them at least, you know, like fizzy drink worthy. You know,
I just think I look at this roster and I see them.
What does that mean?
I see them taking maps against some of the other bottom teams. I see when it gets to the tournaments as well, there is upset potential if a roster falls in their laps, or not a roster, a meta falls in their laps that they are sufficient at. Like this
they're
is a
not
roster
going to be in the tournaments. They're shit, Bren.
But
they really aren't.
They could.
No,
they could. There's a world in which they could.
No, I'm looking at the other rosters in APAC. They even if their DPS line is the best thing you've got going for the Guangzhou Charge, they have a bottom 2 DPS line in APAC.
Quote me on this. They could.
They could. They could.
I mean, yeah, they could.
Yeah,
I mean,
the rest of the league could all fall ill, and then Guangzhou Charge are the last one remaining.
Listen,
like some kind of fucking...
like 40% of the roster has won Overwatch League. Think about that, huh?
How many teams from APAC?
40%.
40% of their roster has won Overwatch League.
Molly, Develop.
They haven't won the Overwatch League. They're on the bench.
How many teams from APAC make it to the qualify for the mid-season?
4.
Not enough for Guangzhou.
4 out of 7. Happening.
They could squeak in there.
No, they
absolutely they could.
I think
without fail, one of these top teams in APAC is going to underperform at a given time.
I think a 4th place.
It's going to be Seoul, by the way.
Potentially possible for the team. I think a strong 4th place in APAC is very possible because, we don't know how Spark or Valiant are going to turn up. You know, 4th place is doable. Potentially.
I mean, even if they beat both of those teams, they're not in 4th.
We don't know how Spark is going to turn out. Dude, they have a DPS line of Shy and Alpha Yi, and you think this team will be worse than one with developed...
But Green Square, he believes in the Spark coaching.
No, I don't believe
He believes they're actually going to field Shy and Alpha Yi.
It's going to be great.
I don't believe that team.
I'm in.
Yeah.
That team is going to be chronically mismanaged, and all of your hope is going down the toilet.
They won't.
Why? Because they got Chengun? Oh, of course. Perfect. We have another preview that we didn't do anyway.
Exactly.
So
we're just ended up getting into a Spark preview here, but fuck, this team...
I have hope.
Okay.
They can make the mid-season. If they make the mid-season, that's a win for them, and I think that they can do it. I'll be the only one that believes in them.
Yeah. I'm not going to challenge you on that.
I have to apologize to the viewers, okay? We make content to round out people's lives, to make the world a better place. But this video
is that our mission?
This video in particular, we've literally just made people's lives worse rather than good. This is just...
What do you want us to do?
Sorry
Lie?
For
tell them that Choice One's the God's gift to video games, and Molly's going to hard carry them.
It was good. I do feel like Choice One is actually a pretty good.
Choice One is good.
Their DPS line on paper, it probably could be pretty decent.
Why do you look so pained as you're saying this?
It's because I am pained. Full of mediocrity. It's a team full of mediocrity.
Choice One's a good tracer. I'll give him that.
It's all mediocre. It's mediocre across the board. Yes.
Good points for me. Krong, Molly, Choice One, and If there's
I
a
think
summer meta,
unique in a main support meta, unique is not bad. I think unique is a solid player.
When has there been when was there been a main support meta since?
As in main support.
2018?
I'm talking specifically as in like you need a main support instead of 2 flex supports. Like he will be a good main support.
Sure, yeah, he's gonna be serviceable, and that's most main supports.
Have we ever had a meta where the main support is the most important? Maybe the Mercy meta.
I mean, there's
Brig,
if you consider
Mercy
it.
meta, definitely. Yeah.
Like some Brig metas.
Anyway, fuck it. Well, enjoy that video, Charge fans.
Holy shit.
Or also anyone, that was a rambling mess. So good luck anyone watching this video.
Man, so anyway, you can tell we're really excited about this team. But in a couple of days, we're going to be going through the Guangzhou Spark. So stick around for that because I anticipate some molding and we'll see you then.